Lionel Richie was the world's ultimate voice of romance, but while you were falling in love to truly, Lionel was living a 30-year lie that nearly destroyed him. Behind the Grammys and the smiles was a secret confrontation so violent it became known as the scandal of the century, and it's only now that the truth is finally coming out. Think about it. We all know the songs. We know the smooth, velvet voice that defined an entire generation of love stories. But what if the man who taught the world how to love was actually living in a state of absolute, terrifying chaos? What if the romantic lyrics we all sang along to were actually a shield used to hide a domestic nightmare of epic proportions? The story you think you know about Lionel Richie is only a fraction of the truth. Behind the sparkling trophies and the infectious laughter on American Idol lies a dark, decade-spanning tale of infidelity, physical violence, and a desperate cover-up that nearly cost him everything. To the world, Lionel Richie was the ultimate symbol of warmth, stability, and endless love. If you grew up in the late 70s or 80s, his music was the literal backdrop of your life. His songs played at weddings, proms, and romantic dinners. He was the safe, smiling superstar who transitioned seamlessly from the funk-fueled grooves of the Commodores to a solo career that made him one of the most successful pop balladeers in human history. He co-wrote We Are the World with Michael Jackson, performed at the 1984 Olympics in front of 2 billion people, and accumulated enough gold and platinum records to line a mansion. He seemed completely untouchable. His public brand was built entirely on emotional connection, vulnerability, and romantic fidelity. But behind that meticulously crafted curtain of pristine superstar status lay a reality that was not just messy, but actively dangerous. The contrast between his public hits and his private chaos represents one of the most profound dualities in modern music history. For decades, Lionel maintained a highly polished image of the perfect family man, but the truth of his domestic life was rapidly fracturing, driven by a secret separation, a hidden love affair, and a level of pressure that would have broken almost anyone else. To fully understand this crisis, we have to travel back to the mid-1980s. Lionel Richie was experiencing the absolute peak of his creative and commercial powers. In 1986, he released the massive hit Dancing on the Ceiling. It was during the casting of the high-energy music video for this track that he met Diane Alexander, a stunning 22-year-old dancer. At the time, Lionel had been married to his college sweetheart, Brenda Harvey, for over a decade. They had married in 1975, long before the fame, the money, and the global adoration had transformed Lionel into a household name. They had even taken in a young girl named Nicole, whom they would later formally adopt. To the public, they were the picture-perfect Hollywood family. But behind closed doors, the marriage was already in its death throes. Lionel was suffocating under the weight of his own celebrity and the escalating expectations of his career. As he admits in his recent memoir, Truly, he was desperately trying to find a way to decompress. He eventually rented a private beach house, hiding out from the world and his wife in an attempt to escape the overwhelming pressure that was killing everyone involved. What the public did not know was that Lionel had begun a passionate, secret relationship with Diane Alexander. For years, he lived a double life, balancing his public role as the loyal, romantic husband with his private escape into a completely different world. It was a ticking time bomb, and in June of 1988, it finally detonated in the most explosive way imaginable. But wait, if you think this was just a standard Hollywood affair that ended in a quiet, mutual divorce, you are completely wrong. What actually happened in a quiet Beverly Hills apartment complex on June 29, 1988, is so shocking that the police files read like a high-stakes thriller. But the real twist isn't just the physical violence of that morning. It's how Lionel used his massive industry power to bury the story for over 30 years, hiding a devastating physical and mental health crisis that almost took away the one thing he valued most, his voice. If you want to understand how a global icon managed to fool the world while his life was actively burning to the ground, you need to hear what happened when that apartment door finally opened, and why Lionel was forced to pay a $20 million price tag just to keep his deepest secrets from destroying his career. Let's reconstruct the events of that fateful morning. It was early in the morning on June 29th when Lionel drove from his beach sanctuary to visit Diane Alexander at her apartment in Beverly Hills. He believed he was safe, hidden from the prying eyes of the paparazzi, and most importantly, his wife. But Brenda Harvey was not a woman to be underestimated. Suspecting that her husband was lying about his whereabouts, she tracked him down. She arrived at Diane's apartment complex and quietly waited. Shortly after Lionel arrived, there was a sudden, sharp knock at the door. When Lionel opened it, his worst nightmare was standing on the threshold. Brenda was there, and the confrontation was instantaneous, loud, and incredibly violent. According to police reports and Lionel's own vivid recollections in his memoir, it became a massive, screaming match that spilled out into the hallway. Lionel describes trying desperately to physically defuse the situation, attempting to pull Brenda away from Diane and out of the building to prevent a tragedy from exploding in front of him. But Brenda was consumed by heartbreak and rage. She went back into the apartment, and the physical altercation escalated. Neighbors, awakened by the blood-curdling screams and the sound of breaking glass, called the Beverly Hills Police Department. By the time officers arrived, the apartment was vandalized, and Lionel was physically battered. He later informed the police that Brenda had kicked him repeatedly in the stomach area during the struggle. Brenda was arrested on the spot and booked on suspicion of corporal injury to a spouse, resisting arrest, trespassing, vandalism, battery, and disturbing the peace. She was released on $5,000 bail, but the damage was done. The story broke, but the sheer scale of the cover-up that followed was a masterclass in celebrity damage control. How does a man who sings about endless love recover from having his private life exposed in such a brutal fashion? The answer lies in the art of the lie. Lionel and his public relations team immediately went into overdrive to minimize the fallout. They managed to have the criminal charges against Brenda dropped, avoiding a highly publicized trial that would have destroyed what was left of his pristine reputation. But the psychological and financial toll of this incident was staggering. The divorce proceedings that followed were brutal, culminating in a massive, multi-million-dollar settlement that severely drained Lionel's finances. He eventually married Diane in 1995, but that marriage also ended in a costly divorce a decade later, costing him an estimated $20 million. But the financial bleeding was nothing compared to the secret physical crisis Lionel was hiding during this exact same period. At the height of his marital stress, Lionel began losing his voice. He was diagnosed with a severe throat condition that required 4 separate, highly risky surgeries. The man who made his living singing sweet, effortless love songs was facing the terrifying reality that he might never speak, let alone sing again. He was trapped in a cycle of silent panic, dealing with undiagnosed ADHD and severe anxiety, all while pretending to the world that he was completely fine. He was still expected to step onto global stages, flash his trademark smile, and sing truly as if his heart had never been broken and his body had never been battered. It was a classic case of public triumph masking private devastation. This phenomenon of icon deconstruction is not unique to Lionel Richie, but his story serves as the ultimate case study of how the music industry constructs a brand that is entirely separate from the human being behind it. Think about other legendary figures of the era, like Marvin Gaye or Whitney Houston. Their public personas were packaged as pure, idealized joy and romantic bliss, while their private realities were defined by severe trauma, addiction, and domestic turmoil. In Lionel's case, the contrast is particularly stark because his entire brand was built on emotional safety. When a fan buys a ticket to see Lionel Richie, they are buying a ticket to a world where love is simple, enduring, and painless. To admit that the singer of endless love was embroiled in a violent domestic dispute that ended in police arrests would have shattered that illusion and destroyed the commercial viability of his catalog. By examining the detailed accounts in his memoir Truly, we see the immense pressure placed on artists to maintain these corporate-sponsored illusions. It reveals that the songs we think are about others are often desperate coping mechanisms for the artists themselves. Ultimately, Lionel Richie's journey is not just a story of a hidden scandal, but a powerful testament to human resilience and the high price of global fame. In his memoir, Lionel raises the driving question that defined his entire adult life. How can I cope with my brokenness? By finally breaking his 30-year silence on the most painful chapter of his life, Lionel has stripped away the myth of the flawless superstar, showing us that even the man who sang about perfect love had to fight through his own personal hell to find peace. The pristine image was a lie, but the survival was real. If you want to understand how other musical legends managed to hide their darkest secrets from the world while under the intense spotlight of the public eye, you need to look at what really happened behind the scenes of another iconic 80s masterpiece, which we break down in our next video.